Everybody, welcome back to another video with Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's video, we are going to continue our series of getting to know the 49ers rookies. This is going to be part 3. In the first 2 parts, we covered the first 5 picks of the draft. Today, we're going to be looking at Jordan Watkins, Jordan James, and Marques Sigle. We're going to have a lot to talk about here, so let's not waste any time. We're going to jump right in. But first, let's run the intro. The first player we're going to talk about in today's video is going to be the last pick of the 4th round, number 138 overall, and that is Jordan Watkins, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss. He's 5'11", 196 pounds, so while some people may say he's undersized, he's not small, tiny by any stretch of the imagination. Pretty solid size actually for a wide receiver. He's 23 years old and originally from Louisville, Kentucky. The one thing which is going to stand out about Jordan Watkins immediately is going to be his speed. He has just electric speed. We're talking 4.37 40 speed, and it actually shows up onto the field too. And we're going to talk about some of his stats and some of the plays that he's made which demonstrate that. To get to know him a little bit more though, he's a 5-year college player, started out the first 2 years at Louisville and then moved to Ole Miss, where he spent the final 3 years of his college career. When you look at Jordan Watkins, he really elevated his game in 2024. Seasons before that, not too bad, but in 2024, with the Ole Miss Rebels, he took it to another level. You're talking 49 receptions, 906 yards, 9 touchdowns, and that's actually an 18.5 yard average catch, which is just insane. Being up in the high teens or 20s when you're talking about average yards for reception is just bonkers. It's really, really good to see, and it's something that the Niners kind of lacked somewhat last year. I think something that really stood out to me with the 49ers in 2024 was a lack of speed on the offense, just being unable to make those game-breaking plays. We did see, Jawan Jennings made a number of big-time plays, but it wasn't necessarily with his athleticism per se. It wasn't with his speed, and I think Jordan Watkins is ideally a guy who can help change that. He's one of those guys where, of course, you see him, he's able to just lightning quick to go deep. We saw it in practice. There was a great throw from Brock Purdy to Jordan Watkins, caught it, just got beyond a couple of the defensive backs and able to take it to the end zone in practice. He was able to translate that, of course, at Ole Miss onto the field. Can he do that with the 49ers? The 49ers, we absolutely need a speed threat at the wide receiver position. No Ayuk, Jennings, he's not the fastest guy. Pearsall actually does have pretty good speed. You're talking 4.4 speed, but Watkins is a guy that the defenses will have to account for. Now, it's a lot to ask, a pick who is at the end of the 4th round to come in and make an immediate impact. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. He will have some opportunities, though. We've talked about some of the injuries. We talked about Ayuk has been out. He's going to miss, I would guess, the first half of the season. Demarcus Robinson probably going to be suspended for the first few games. Jawan Jennings, the contract situation, getting that figured out. So he is getting opportunities in training camp, and he'll have a bunch of opportunities in preseason. So it's not impossible to say that he could make an impact in his rookie year. It's just pretty unlikely from Shanahan. It wouldn't be like Shanahan to throw a rookie out there. Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, somewhat the exception, not the rule. But there's a lot of nuance to learn for Jordan Watkins, and that is something that kind of held back Pearsall, held back Jacob Cowing last year, being able to line up correctly, know when to motion, know where to go, when you have to break out routes, all these sort of things that go into playing wide receiver. Jordan Watkins is going to get that down. He will get it down. It's just going to take some time. I like the pick, and something that's really going to help out Watkins potentially make the field is that he does have punt return ability. He did that at Ole Miss, so that's something that's good to see. Just added value if he needs to be put in that position. He's shown that he's able to do that. I like this pick for the 49ers. It adds a speed element that we don't have in our wide receiver room. Can he develop? Can he make an impact in year 1? I think you're going to see him sporadically. Don't expect to see him out there for the majority of snaps by any means, but you will see him out there. Keep an eye out for Jordan Watkins. Some of those big plays I think we could see in 2025. The next player we're going to talk about is another Jordan, but this time it's Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon. He was picked 147 overall, so in the 5th round of the 2025 draft. He is 21 years old, he's 5'10 and about 210 pounds, so pretty solid size for a running back position. He played 3 years at the University of Oregon, hence the kind of younger age compared to some of the other guys that the 49ers have drafted. Overall, he really took his game in his sophomore year back in 2023 with the Oregon Ducks. You're talking about 760 rushing yards, 7.1 yards per carry, which is just bonkers type numbers, and he had 11 touchdowns, not only able to break plays, going distance, but also short yardage situations, very, very effective there too. Then we look at last year, he took his game to another level, 1,267 rushing yards, 5.4 yards per carry. That's a dip compared to the 7.1, but still very good numbers, and 15 rushing touchdowns at Oregon in 2024. Something to note as well, because we know this is really important for the 49ers playing the running back position, is he's had 42 career receptions at Oregon. Running backs being able to catch the ball, having good hands, that's such a huge thing for the 49ers when Kyle Shanahan designs his plays and trying to design mismatches. Versatility is such a key here, where defenses are kind of unable to know what to expect based on the formation. You have a lot of guys who may be one-dimensional, and where they line up, okay, we have a good idea of what they're going to do. Jordan James has the ability to catch the ball effectively, so something that you like to see is if he's back there, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be given the ball to run or just stay in to block. He's a guy who can go out, run routes, and catch the ball. When I think about Jordan James and kind of when I watched him at Oregon, definitely shows some really good vision, the ability, the outside run, they do a lot of that at Oregon. What we do here in San Francisco, he hits his top speed very quickly. Now, Jordan James is not the fastest guy by any means. He's not as fast as, say, an Isaac Orendo. However, he gets to his, top speed very quickly. So, he can make a cut and then just get out the cut. He's going to be, think in some ways, if you remember Frank Gore. So obviously, look, I'm not saying that Jordan James is going to be anywhere near Frank Gore, but Frank Gore was a guy who could make a cut, get to his top speed quickly. Now, Frank Gore's top speed wasn't great, and that's why we used to see him get, chased down a lot, and that could happen with Jordan James. However, the ability to once you can have that one step, bam, go, you love to see that in this 49ers scheme is built off of that, and I think he's going to be a really effective runner. Another thing which I like which has going for Jordan James is I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities. Unfortunately, which I like Isaac Orendo, I think he's a good runner, also made some nice catches last season with the 49ers. He is just always getting riddled with injuries, and it sounds like Orendo's going to be out for at least a number of weeks, so he's going to miss time, and Jordan James is back from a very minor injury he sustained, so we know that McCaffrey, he's going to lead the way. I do expect Shanahan to lighten the load on McCaffrey this coming season, especially when you compare it to what we saw McCaffrey do in 2023. So, to bring it back to Jordan James, I think he's a guy we are going to see him this season. Whether they try and focus in on short yardage situations, spelling Christian McCaffrey, we'll see what happens when Isaac Orendo comes back, but keep an eye out for Jordan James. I think he's a guy who could surprise us. Could he be like a Jordan Mason type player? That remains to be seen. Hopefully he will be. Hopefully he can, and I think he will have success in this offense. Keep an eye out, Jordan James in 2025. And last but not least, in this video, we're going to be talking about Marques Sigle. He was the 160th pick overall. That was in the 5th round out of Kansas State. If we look at Marques Sigle, he has that ideal size that the 49ers typically look for at the safety position. You're talking 5'11", 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's 23 years old, and originally he is from Omaha, Nebraska. Now, he started out his college career at North Dakota State, and then he transferred to Kansas State for the last 2 years of his college career. Now, when you look at Marques Sigle, to me, he is very much a cover safety. You look at what he did at the combine, a 4.37 40, so the same speed as a Jordan Watkins. So he is lightning quick. You love to see that, the ability just to cover a lot of ground at the safety position. He showed ability to be able to read plays and make plays. Over the last 2 years at Kansas State, he had 4 interceptions, one of which was returned for a touchdown. I think something which is a necessity if you're going to play on this 49ers defense, regardless of the position, is you have to be aggressive against the run. That's something that he is not afraid to do. I think at the core of it, his, the biggest upside is in his coverage ability, but he's a guy who showed at Kansas State that he is not afraid to get in there, lay down some hits, mix it up a little bit. They were talking about Sigle as maybe being a safety or a nickelback. I think that he will solidify himself as a safety. The question I think remains is, how much are we going to see Marques Sigle this year? Well, if you think about it, I want to say the 49ers probably keep 4 safeties on the 53-man roster. And my prediction as of now would be you're going to see Jason Pinnock, Jair Brown, Richie Grant, and Marques Sigle. Now, when Malik Mustafa comes back from his injury, there's going to be maybe a little bit of a shuffle. Maybe they try, they go with 5 safeties. We'll have to see how all of that works out. But I do think Marques Sigle makes the roster. And one of the big reasons, and an additional reason, I guess, why I think he does, is because he does have some really good special teams abilities in terms of the coverage on punts and kickoffs. You look at what he did back in 2022, this was at North Dakota State, but he led the special teams there in tackles, so that's just an added benefit. When you talk about secondary players and how many players the 49ers are going to keep on the 53-man roster, being versatile like that could be a huge bonus for a guy like Sigle. I expect him to make the roster. Do I expect to see him a lot in 2025? Probably not, but I think he's a guy, maybe think of like Talanoa Hufanga. I'm not saying that they're the same type of player, but in terms of their development. Hufanga as a rookie, we really didn't see him out there all that much, and he was also a 5th round pick. Sigle, I think it's going to be the same. If we remember, Hufanga played special teams back in 2021, and he had that big punt return against the Packers in the playoffs. So I think we're going to see Sigle on special teams a lot in his rookie year. Maybe year 2 or so, can he develop his game and with his athleticism kind of put it all together and be able to be a starting safety? We certainly hope so. That would be great value in the 5th round pick. And the 5th round is one of those sweet rounds for the 49ers. But Marques Sigle, a guy to look out for, I think, in the future. Look out for him in special teams this upcoming season, and also keep an eye out during preseason. That's going to go a long way to see how his development is coming along so far. So there you have it, guys, for part 3 in my series talking about just getting to know the rookies. And I just wanted to do this series as the Niners had 11 draft picks overall. Not everyone, of course, is going to make the roster. Not everyone's going to have a day 1 impact. But just so you guys can get an idea of some of these new names that are coming to the team, so when the season rolls around, you're somewhat familiar, you have a bit of background information on all of these guys. In the 4th and final part of this series, we're going to cover the last 3 picks of the draft. So that's quarterback Curtis Rourke, offensive lineman Connor Colby, and then wide receiver Junior Burgeon. So hope to see you guys there. Of course, in this video, leave some likes, comments below. It really helps out with the algorithm. I'm going to head on out of here, guys, but before I do, I'm going to say 2 things. The butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.